I want to bring up the issue of wildlife poaching. You and Senator Jeff Flake recently published an op-ed about the issue. Excuse me. Tell us how it is that terrorist organizations and other large criminal organizations are tied to something like wildlife poaching.
Well, Alona, thanks for asking about it. Something that's a little bit off the plate for the average American, but that I think ought to be of concern to us, is that sophisticated international criminal gangs are increasingly involved in massacring thousands of elephants, dozens of rhinos all across Africa, so rapidly that it's entirely possible rhinos will be extinct in the wild within the next decade and elephants within the next 20 years. That's because rhino horn and elephant tusk now command a value in Asia, in countries like Vietnam and China, that exceeds that of heroin or gold. So they are attracting far more sophisticated criminal syndicates and armed poachers than had been the case in the past. Why is this of concern to us? Well, first, because these beautiful, iconic wild creatures are being slaughtered across Africa. But second, because it's also funding terrorism and organized crime. The very same networks that are involved in trafficking the products of the massacre of elephants and rhinos are also trafficking people, they're trafficking money, they're trafficking guns, they're trafficking drugs, and they are destabilizing countries all throughout Central and Southern Africa at an alarming rate. So it's something that Senator Flake of Arizona and I have joined together to tackle. There have been hearings in the Foreign Relations Committee. We have a number of bipartisan co-sponsors. There's a similar bill that's come out of the House of Representatives, and I'm actually cautiously optimistic that we will have a bipartisan bill through the Senate and ready for action by the president before the end of the year, and that this will contribute in a meaningful way to tackling the very real crisis of wildlife trafficking that is currently afoot in a dozen African countries, and that poses a real threat to wildlife and to the security of the region and ultimately of the United States.